Police for the University of Missouri Columbia. I'd like to thank the media and our guest for coming on such short notice today, and especially this early in the morning. I know there's not a lot of morning people here, but I'm very pleased to announce that we have solved the homicide of Dr. Jeong Im. Some of you will remember that on January 7, 2005, the Im family, along with MU community, suffered a horrible loss when Professor Im was murdered in the Maryland Avenue garage. While we were able to obtain a large amount of evidence, forensic evidence, we had not been able to identify the person who committed the murder until now. The individual responsible for the homicide has been identified as Timothy Aaron Hoag, H-O-A-G, date of birth 3/23/77. Timothy Hoag committed suicide on August 9th, 2012 when he jumped off of the parking garage in downtown Columbia. In December of this past year, we received information that identified Hoag as the person who might have committed the homicide. We were able to match Hoag's DNA and the DNA collected at the murder scene. That, along with other witness accounts, has led us to conclusively believe that Hoag murdered Dr. Im in 2005. I'm extremely proud of the work that has been done by our department, all of our guys, along with the cooperation we received from our law enforcement partners, which included the Mid-Missouri Major Case Squad, the Columbia Police Department, the Missouri State Highway Patrol, Boone County Sheriff's Department, the FBI Behavioral Science Unit in Quantico, Virginia, the Naval Criminal Intelligence Service, which is referred to as the NCIS, and the St. Louis County Forensic Lab, the United States Attorney's Office, the Bureau of Alcohol and Firearms, Boone County Prosecutor's Office, and specifically Dan Knight, who helped us a great deal, gave us a lot of good counsel and information. We always appreciate Dan. The University of Missouri Campus Facilities, University of Missouri Hospital and Hospital Security, the University of Missouri Parking Operations, the VA Hospital, and VA Police. Our investigators have worked tirelessly to identify individuals, and even though we were unable to do so immediately, we never stopped working on the case, examining every lead that came to us day and night for a long 8 years. I want to say how proud I am of Detective Sergeant Sean Spalding, who diligently pursued this case, was in charge of it, and was the reason the case was brought to a satisfactory conclusion. We'll go into more details in a minute, but I'd like to thank MU Chancellor Brady Deaton, who has been one of our biggest supporters throughout his career at MU, and Vice Chancellor for Administrative Services Jackie Jones. Jackie oversees the operation of the campus, including our department, and we are very grateful for her support and guidance. The Im family actually sent us a statement, and I would like to read that statement at this time. We will distribute that statement later on after everyone has spoken. And this is the statement. We are very relieved and grateful for the resolution of the case. This brings closure on the tragedy to our family as well as the University of Missouri and Columbia communities as a whole. We are deeply grateful to the MU Police Department, University Administration, and all the other law enforcement agencies involved for their dedication, professionalism, and tireless commitment over the last 8 years. which have resulted in solving the case. We also thank the community for all of their support. End of the statement. I would just like to say I have kept in contact with Mrs. M and the two daughters over the past 8 years on a regular basis. Jackie Jones and I have spent many hours with the family making sure they were up to date on the facts of the case and what we were doing with the case. Dr. Deaton has to leave here in a few minutes for another engagement, but I would like to invite him to the podium to say a few words. Dr. Deaton.
Chief Wattring, thank you very much, and I'm here to mark what we hope is closure to what's been a terribly traumatic experience for the university community, and to thank those who've done so very much to resolve it. Chief Wattring, what you have done, and you and Jackie Jones, Vice Chancellor for Administrative Services here at the university, and adding that personal concern to the M family in such a tragedy is something that will not be forgotten by anyone in the university community, certainly not to the Korean community as well. Dr. Jeong Im was a very distinguished member of our faculty, and this loss was a very, very traumatic one for our university. The attention that you have given, that your entire MU police squad has given, as well as all the cooperating investigative units, I thank you. And Dan, thank you particularly for the wonderful work you have done on this as well, and to the investigative officers here in MUPD. This was a community effort to try to resolve a very, very difficult case. Our hearts were broken for the M family during the time. It's haunted us for the past 8 years, and there's never been a moment that it's not been at the forefront of the minds of those at this university community trying to ensure the continued safety of our faculty, our staff, our students, all those that come to the university community. This is a great demonstration of that diligence, that patience, that very thorough investigative work that the entire community here has undertaken. I'm very proud of that as Chancellor of this university, and I simply want to express my gratitude to all involved, my continued solace and sympathy to the M family, for whom this has been a terribly traumatic event, and we trust that this brings to a closure this period of history, and out of it I think we have all gained renewed strength and renewed faith and ability to work together. So again, thank you all so very much, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to those of you in the media as well. Thank you. It's my pleasure now to ask Captain Brian Weimer to come up, who will give more details about this investigation and its completion.
What I hope to do is provide you guys a little more of the specifics, because I know you're going to have questions. At the end, I'm going to open it up to your questions. In addition, at the end, we will provide you a document that kind of outlines the history of the case, what's been involved. It will also be posted to our website. So bear with me. The Chiefs kind of gave you a basic background that approximately 12:24 p.m. on Friday, January 7th, 2005, University Police Department officers responded to a vehicle fire on the 3rd level of the Maryland Avenue parking garage. When the fire is extinguished and first responders began checking the vehicle, a deceased individual was located in the trunk of the vehicle. The deceased individual was identified as Jeong Im, a 72-year-old Korean male who was a retired research assistant professor for the MU School of Medicine. The Maryland Avenue parking garage was immediately sealed off by our officers, and also with the assistance of parking operations and others, as we began to identify potential suspects and witnesses that would have been in the area at that time. Officers, with the assistance of the Columbia Police Department and the Columbia Fire Department, immediately began conducting the investigation of the incident. After the medical examiner arrived, it was discovered that the victim had been stabbed with a knife to the chest area. The knife, along with additional forensic evidence to include blood, hair, and touch DNA, and I'll describe that a little bit more at the end, was collected at the scene and submitted to the Missouri State Highway Patrol and other labs for analysis. Chief Wattring also called for assistance from the Mid-Missouri Major Case Squad, and 21 additional investigators from the area arrived to assist us. Press releases, including clearing releases, were sent out. A press conference was held to notify the university community. In addition to, we began asking for assistance of people who may have observed stuff at that time. Investigators from the department have actively continued to investigate this over 8 years and came into a successful conclusion with the identification of Timothy Aaron Hogue. He is believed the sole person responsible, and I'll get into that in just a moment. Kind of a timeline and some of the key elements that we had in this. We had video surveillance footage of that day of Dr. M leaving the hospital around 10:31 a.m. That's why we were able to start establishing a timeline, which, if you recall, these media releases were sent out. They're still posted on our website if you'd like to get to them at the conclusion of this. From approximately 10:35 a.m. to 10:45 a.m., several witnesses observed Dr. M's car, which was a 1995 four-door white Honda Accord, parked in the driving lane on the third level of the Maryland Avenue garage. From approximately 12 p.m. to 12:20 p.m., witnesses observed a white male standing near Dr. M's Honda Accord. The male was seen holding a plastic gas can. Around 12:24 p.m., MUPD received a call from an emergency phone on the third level of the Maryland Avenue garage reporting a vehicle fire. Officers from MUPD and the Columbia Fire Department responded and extinguished the fire. As they were extinguishing the fire, the trunk was popped to make sure that the fire was not in there, and that's when the body was discovered. The investigation revealed that gasoline had been poured across the top of the trunk lid and a stream away from it, and it was lit, which that gas then burned to the car and burned off the top of the car. Mid-Missouri Major Case Squad came in on January 7th. Investigators from MUPD, City of Columbia Police Department, City of Columbia Fire Department, Mid-Missouri Major Case Squad continued to investigate the crime. The Mid-Missouri Case Squad assisted us for over 8 days and helped us follow up on numerous leads. Investigators from MUPD continually actively investigated this homicide over 8 years, and at least 300 leads were followed, and approximately 60 DNA samples were compared to evidence that was recovered from the scene. The department also enlisted the assistance of many agencies, as the chief mentioned earlier. On December 21st, 2012, MUPD investigators received information identifying Timothy Aaron Hogue as the suspect in this case. Investigators learned that Hogue had committed suicide on August 9th, 2012 by jumping off one of the parking garages in the city of Columbia. Investigators were able to obtain a blood sample from Timothy Hogue, and sent it to Missouri State Highway Patrol Lab for analysis. Investigators learned that Hogue's DNA matched the blood, hair, and touch DNA that was recovered at the crime scene. Investigators from that identified potential witnesses who may have additional information to confirm the facts and the evidence that we had. After interviews with the witness, informed us that he had transported Timothy Hogue to the Maryland Avenue garage on January 7th so that Hogue could get a car. He further reported that approximately 2 hours later, he received a phone call from Hogue requesting that he pick him up at a business located just north of campus and to bring gasoline with him. The witness picked up Hogue and transported him back to the Maryland Avenue garage with the belief that Hogue was in need of gasoline to start his vehicle. Upon arrival at the garage, the witness parked his vehicle on the level below where the crime scene was located, and Hogue took the gas can and walked up the stairwell out of sight of the witness. The witness stated that Hogue was gone for a little while, and when Hogue returned, he was wearing the particle mask and a hood that covered his head. The witness stated that Hogue looked similar to the description the department had released of the homicide after that. If you recall that we had sent out a sketch. Upon getting in the vehicle, Hogue ordered the witness to drive from the area. The witness stated that he saw smoke coming from the garage as they drove away. The witness then transported Hogue from the campus area. The witness stated that he felt Hogue was involved in the homicide but never came forward due to fear of what may happen to his family. The investigation will remain open at this time as investigators properly work to properly classify and clear the case. From evidence obtained and statements gathered, there is nothing at this time to indicate that anyone else was involved in the homicide of Dr. M. However, after this announcement, additional people may come forward with supporting details. Dan Knight in the Boone County Prosecutor's Office has been consulted on this case from the beginning and has provided valuable assistance right up to the current day. The M family has asked that their privacy be respected, And the statement that the chief read earlier will be made available to you for comment. Touch DNA refers to DNA that is left behind from skin cells when a person touches or comes in contact with an item. Human beings shed tens of thousands of skin cells each day. These skin cells are transferred every day to surfaces that you touch. So what happens is, as you touch things throughout the day, these particles are transmitted to that. So when we submitted evidence to the lab, they were able to recover this, and that's how we were able to link that. With this in mind, all this information and a little bit more that I didn't specifically read would be made available to you. It'll also be on the department's website. With that, I'd like to open it up to questions that you may have if you would ask one at a time. Yes, ma'am.
What is the presumed motive for killing Dr. Im?
Unfortunately, with Hogue killing himself, we do not know. Nothing was relayed to witnesses and stuff of what that was. You know, we were asked a lot of the time. There was nothing to specifically indicate that it was a robbery or anything like that.
You didn't know him?
Not that we're aware of. There's no way that he knew. No. So it wasn't a crime like that. Yes, sir.
Had Mr. Hogue been identified as a suspect? Was he someone that had been talked to during this investigation?
He is not someone that was talked to before, and was never talked to.
Just following up on that question, so there's no sense that his suicide was connected to his involvement or potential involvement in this crime?
There's nothing to indicate that his suicide was related to that. Our understanding is there was no suicide note or anything that was left to that. From researching and looking into Hogue, it appears that he had medical issues after being struck by a car sometime earlier, so there were several things that had went on in his life, but it'd only be speculation.
What was the evidence that emerged in late December that allowed you to make the connection to Hogue?
Well, all along we've had all this evidence that was sitting there, and unfortunately, like the TV shows, you don't just put your evidence in and it pops up with a match. So we had to have something to match it to. So when we got the lead in December that Hogue was involved, we were able to get the blood, send that blood down, and that's what the DNA matched up, and that's how we knew we had our person.
But in other words, was the lead information from this individual who came forward because he knew that Hogue was now dead? Was that specifically, what was the information that, I know you had the DNA evidence, but what enabled you to pinpoint Hogue?
The individual that contacted us specifically named him, said, I have information to believe that Timothy Hogue is the person that you're looking for in your homicide.
The individual reached out to you
He reached out to us.
after Hogue was dead?
Yes, December. Yes, ma'am.
Because that witness brought him the gasoline back to the parking garage, are you guys looking at all, I mean, I know you said there wasn't anyone else involved at this point, but you completely ruled him out for any involvement?
Yes. All the evidence and everything that we had all along, pretty well, we were sure that it was one person, but always kept in mind that it could be more. But from the statements, the evidence, and everything else we have, yes, it's everything indicates that Hogue was the only one involved in the murder.
So
No.
so is this considered closed then, or you said it's still open to see?
It's
if
still
anyone-
open because as this goes out, like I said, our understanding, there could be other people that was fearful of Hogue, that maybe he had confided in or something, and they may come forward with us. All along, we've been very careful not to release stuff due to the fact of when our investigators then bring a witness in and they gather information, clearly it's because of firsthand knowledge that they have rather than something they had read in our press release or from the media. Yes, ma'am.
You said that the witness feared for his family?
Yes.
He feared Hogue?
Very much, yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Had he made threats against this witness?
He knew, he described Mr. Hogue as a very violent person, and from that, he felt that possibly he was the only one that would have known about this, so if it came out, Hogue would instantly say, well, you're the one, and come after his family. Yes, ma'am.
Because he brought Hogue the gasoline and drove him away, is there going to be any prosecution towards him?
We don't have anything to indicate at this time that he committed any crime, no. And so his belief was that he was bringing gas for the vehicle that he brought him for earlier. Yes.
What do you know about Mr. Hogue between the date the homicide was committed and the date of his suicide? What his movements? Was he a student? Was he employed here? Do you know anything about him?
From the time of the homicide to then, we don't have a lot of detail. He was not a student during that time, no. university during that time.
Any criminal record or history of violent behavior?
That's something you'd have to search through CaseNet or something like that, because certain things are releasable depending on charges of all those sort of things, so I wouldn't say that. Yes?
But where do you believe that Hogue actually then committed the murder itself? Was it in the parking garage or was it?
Oh, the murder definitely happened in the third level of the parking garage. That's where he was stabbed and then
Okay.
placed in the trunk, yes. Got no further questions? I'd like to thank you very much for coming. Yes?
Just in case I missed it, are you confirming that the witness who came forward was the same witness, or was the person who brought the gas?
One of the people that we talked to, yes, after we identified Hogue, was the person that transported him to the Maryland Avenue garage, then later came back with gas to assist him.
But that's the same person who came forward?
Originally, no. The first person that called us in December was a different individual that identified Timothy Hogue. From there, we collected the DNA sample. From that, we were able to gather more information about Hogue's associates, and from there, we made contact with this other individual. So there are two separate good questions.
Is anyone going to receive reward money as a result of the case being solved?
It was not sought, no. That was not, no. But that.
I'm sorry,
no,
the additional information that you received led to your contact with the individual who transported Mr. Hogue to the parking garage?
The information that we received in December, along with once Hogue was identified and his associates, allowed us to contact the other witness that we talked to, the witness that had actually brought the gasoline and been with him on the day of the 7th.
So there were at least two people then who had knowledge of this?
Had knowledge of Hogue, yes.
Okay.
And
So when
possibly
you
others.
refer to the person who was very fearful of Hogue, you were referring to the first person who made contact in December, or the guy who brought him to the parking garage?
Primarily the guy that brought him to the parking garage, but the other person knew of his violent history also.
Okay, I see.
Yes, both.
Thank you.
And how was the other person involved at all? Was he there? Did he see it?
No, was not involved. He had just heard the information from someone else, passed it along to us. All right, thank you very much. Mary Jo is handing out the information that we provided. Once again, it'll be on our website also. We also were able to obtain a 2006 mugshot of Mr. Hogue, and that will be linked on our website so that you can get that from there, or if you contact me later, I'd be happy to email that to you so it's in digital format. Thank you very much.